I'm sure by now you all have heard the phrase, you throw like a girl, or something like it. The phrase, like a girl, has been around for decades. It originated during the early 1940s when a movie A League of Their Own, which depicted the development of a women's professional baseball team, was produced. The women were teased and made fun of because of the way they were throwing the ball.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Sophie Bonaguidi, and today I'm going to be discussing educating girls to be empowered at a young age. I'd like to begin by saying that I believe everyone should feel empowered, but girls often find themselves struggling to find this source of empowerment. Well, I first took information from a study done by two professors at the Indiana University in Bloomington that took place during the years 1998 to 1999, 2010 to 2011, that stated there was no average gender gap in test scores when students entered kindergarten, but during the years 2nd and 3rd grade, a gap developed in favor of the boys. Further into the reading, the authors revealed that teachers had bias towards specific students that contributed to the gap. Ultimately, this means as young girls, not only do we have to be more capable, but we also have to be seen as hard workers in school. Even based off of personal experience, there have been times where I felt as though teachers contribute boys' success to an innate ability.
I recently sat down with my mom, who has been an elementary school teacher for nearly 20 years, to discuss some of her own thoughts on education to empower girls. The first question I had the opportunity to ask her was, is there ever a time in your life where you felt empowered at a young age? She responded with, at a young age, I always felt as though people who were surrounding me were constantly finding new ways to appreciate who I was. A specific period where I felt most empowered was when I graduated with a master's as a first-generation student. The following question stated, as an elementary school teacher, do you challenge your students to empower others? I certainly hope so, she responds. She goes on to say that she pushes her students to be inclusive and aware. My final question for her was, are there any ways that you can think of to empower girls? She says, it's important for girls to become educated about our past. Without our grandmas and our great-grandmas, we would not be where we are today. It is also important for girls to become educated about our future and the steps that we can take to end inequality amongst genders.
I believe that there are so many benefits to teachers taking that extra step and educating girls on what it means to be empowered and how to be empowered. Girls transition from passive consumers to active citizens when they're given a voice, and this ultimately invites girls to discuss their thoughts and ideas. Girls feel more comfortable and safe in an environment where they feel accepted. And girls have so many opportunities to gain leadership qualities when they're just given a chance. While we now live in a world where girls have the opportunity to receive an education, girls in other countries are still not as fortunate. An article that focused around girls' education hotspots. It was found that in countries across Asia and sub-Saharan Africa, girls were often married before they were 18, struggled to enroll in secondary schools at the same rate as boys, and in at least 15 different countries are facing attacks on their lives for participating in education.
In fact, in places with high rates of child marriage, it appears that it coincides with gender parity, a statistical measure that compares a particular indicator among women, like average income, to the same indicator among men, in secondary school enrollments, as well as areas where girls are outnumbered by boys in school.
Luckily, in the past 20 years, girls' education has been one of the success stories of women's rights and global development.
In an article written by Rebecca Winthrop and Eileen McGivney, the authors state that since 1990, when only half of the girls living in low-income countries were in school, the number of girls in primary schools increased 2.5 times by 2012, from 23.6 million to nearly 63 million, and today, 80% of the girls in low-income countries are enrolled.
There are so many organizations that you guys can get involved with that are working to educate girls. A couple of them might include Aid for Africa, For Her, Girl Rising, the Malala Fund, or the Mona Foundation. I encourage you guys to take a look at their websites and read about what you can do to help educate girls, which will ultimately empower girls around the world. Finally, I'm going to discuss what I like to call the 3 E's: educate, embrace, and encourage. Educate girls about topics that will ultimately empower them. Embrace girls' interests and talents, whether it's plumbing or volleyball. A teacher who's looking to empower girls will support their choices. Encourage girls to seek new and empowering opportunities. This might include participation in extracurricular activities. There are so many clubs available to students now. Taking advantage of them or beginning new ones might change a student's perspective. I'd like to end with a quote by Malala Yousafzai that states, "Do not wait for someone else to come and speak for you. It is you who can change the world."